Hello, everybody. I'm Adele Levine. This is the House Medium. I am your house medium, and I have a really interesting story today I wanted to cover. It just seems to me that if I just go through the movies and TV shows um, that have been pop culture revered, I love this because then it leads me to the real story behind these quote paranormal stories. But before I get into that, I have to tell all of you something to do. And if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. And if you have been watching any of my social media, you will know, besides my book, which, yes, I know I've been talking about that as well. Go see Sinners. I can't believe I didn't harass you last week, but I'm harassing you now. I have seen it twice and I have already pre ordered the streaming. This movie to me speaks volumes of what that world is about. I just got like this weird feeling when I started talking about it. Just say, I forget that I'm doing this podcast and I can tell you guys these things. I just got like this weird ancestor. It wasn't negative, but like something is very happy that this movie has come to light. Now, here's why. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm just going to merely tell you if you look it up and you think it's a horror film, you are incorrect. It is not a horror film, it's horror adjacent, but it is far from this. I'm not a big horror film fan, so I wouldn't be pumping this movie if that was the case. I could tell you that. This movie is extremely spiritual. If you want a movie that brings the magic, you know that if you've been following me, you know that I talk about raise your vibrations, connect to the ancestor realm. That's what this movie shows you. What I always try to get people to understand about that realm and connecting to that realm, and when I've taught in person how to connect to that realm, by having you lay down and I play music and I create a circle and there's like a dance, this movie shows all that because it is ancient. It's connecting to ancient things. The music, amazing. This movie's a masterpiece. If you want to understand all the things I've been talking about for years and years and years, go see Sinners. And I don't know how long it's going to be in theaters. If you don't want to go in a theater, then stream it. And I promise you, it will change your core. If it doesn't, I don't know what you're doing listening to my podcast then, because it's everything. I grew up on soul music. I grew up on gospel music. So many of you know my story. And yes, I'm going to take it as a point to plug my book, Seer, The Origin Story, a memoir, now on barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. This book is about, how, in my book I talk about how my mother died when I was 10 days old. My aunt and uncle raised me, and my uncle was Black, and he wasn't my biological uncle because my aunt was it was my mother's sister. But I felt the closest to him. I felt the most connected to him. And because of that, I grew up and I talk about this in my book, going to Black churches. And it's the only thing that saved me because church was terrible. Church was horrible. But gospel music, soul music, nothing else like it. And it used to save me, like just the mere music. And I remember just seeing the distinct difference. And I talk about this in the book of going to my friend's church, which was pretty much a white church, and my church. And there was benefits and there was pluses and there was minuses. The plus was we had better music at my church, and the plus was that her church ended a lot early. If you know, you know. My church, when the pastor preached, he preached till he was done and his handkerchief was soaking wet. If you know, you know from sweat. But anyway, this movie, Sinners, is amazing. It really, really is. Like, I did not know what it was going into it. I actually went on Mother's Day and I just wanted to go see a movie by myself. I just wanted to chill by myself. If you know that too. If you're a parent. And I chose this movie because something told me to choose this movie. I knew nothing about it going in. And there's a scene, and everyone calls it the scene. And that scene took me, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It speaks on so many levels: misogyny, racism, sexism, uh, times of, oppression and all kinds of things, but it's not at all preachy at all. It's really kind of speaking on the idea of power and temptation and getting to the roots of the spirit ancestral realm. So use how magic comes into play. It's just amazing. Go see it. All right. With that said, we're going to go into. I wanted to give a special shout out to that, but I'm going to go into the Medium Brew Cafe for a minute. In the Medium Brew Cafe, I just wanted to kind of talk about how some of you might, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, have noticed that I've changed the format. I'm doing stories on real life, basically popular stories. It doesn't mean I still don't want your stories. I want your stories. I still want people's stories. I still would love for you to send me into your stories to the house medium at Gmail. But I have noticed two things, and you can let me know if you've noticed this too. People are very shy to comment on social media ever since the beginning of the year, and people don't seem to feel as excited to come on the podcast. And I think people are just kind of laying low. That's just the impression I get. But I just want you to know I still would love your stories. I may read your story. I may just you know, I may have you on it if it's the right fit, because coming on a podcast, it's kind of a different experience. But in the meantime, I am going to do popular stories, and I want you to tell me what you think and also what stories you would like me to cover. With that said, I don't have coffee today, but look at this drink. And this is in my mug that I finally figured out I can't drink out of it because it's resin and it gets metally. So I have a little glass in here, but this is a drink, everyone. Just because I know, shout out to Angie. She always asks me, what's your recipe? So this is a little bit of, a little bit of vodka and a little bit a little bit of, it's pre-mixed. I got it from Costco, but it's like a mimosa with mint, with dried orange peel in it. And that is it. I just like to keep it. I figured let's start off the summer with something a little different. Don't think when I have the Medium Brew Cafe, it will be coffee, but we will have, as quoting Willy Wonka, coffee is dandy, but liquor is quicker. You know what I'm saying? The real quote is candy's dandy, but coffee, liquor's quicker. So, sometimes you need a little something like this. I'm celebrating. I also want to do a shout out, who he'd be really embarrassed, but my kiddo got an award for being. I mean, I got this call from his teacher talking about how they wrote up this whole thing about how helpful he is, compassionate he is, how what a delight he is, and everything. And I'm just so proud of him. And I just wanted to say, because every generation is so shit upon, every time there's a new generation, we shit on it. Let's not do this. Can we normalize supporting each generation when they're coming in? Because I really have seen some really awesome things from his generation, But I feel that about every generation. If we treat them like people who can be, treat them like people in general, you will see amazing things. But just a shout out as the year's coming to an end. Very proud of him. Um, but also wanted to give a thanks to everyone who has supported my book. I so appreciate it. And I would love your input. Some people have sent me some podcasts. I have reached out to one of them. Someone that told me something Sapphire. If you're listening, I can't find where that information is anymore. Can you send it to me? And if anyone has any other suggestions, do me a favor and tell those podcasts, hey, we would love to hear Adela on. This is my next thing that I'm doing. I am going to be doing an in-person book signing here in LA in July, but I'm working on the other things. It's me. It's me, myself, and I promoting. It's not easy, everyone. Thank you so much for supporting this book. I know it takes a while to read a book, but if you've read it, please leave a review on Amazon. Please leave a review on Barnes & Noble. You can do both, barnesandnoble.com. So they're like, yay, we're glad we're carrying this book. Thank you so much. I know that's a lot. Now, what are we getting into today? Okay. We are getting into the Poltergeist, the movie Poltergeist, and what it is based off of. And it's based off of the Herman family. Now, here's the thing I've noticed about all of these types of stories. It's always based off of some family. And I think this was happening a lot in, oh, and by the way, I have if you're watching this on YouTube, I have like a little cassette tape as a tribute to that time. But if you notice, it's always like this. It's always some family, which makes me suspicious because in the 80s and in the 70s, people in the 60s and the 50s, you couldn't really like go and Google people and see if they're like scammers or whatever. You almost took their word for it. So I almost have a sneaky suspicion this was going on a lot. Okay. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's a really good drink. Just saying. Okay, so we're going to get into what really happened. And I have all the tea, and I'm going to, of course, tell you what I see happened. Okay? So let's get into it. So the Poltergeist, this movie came out in 1982. I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but I can tell you I didn't see it in the movies because if you read my book, See the Origin Story, a memoir by me, plug, I wasn't allowed to go to the movies. I wasn't allowed. So I did not see this in the movies. And I talk about a little story about Star Wars and my connection and how I could have went to the premiere. Go read it and you'll find out. But I wasn't allowed to go to the movies, so I didn't see this. And honestly, I wouldn't have because I would have been too chicken too. Okay, the main inspiration, urban legend of the homes built over cemeteries. In the movie, the house was built over a graveyard, but only the headstones were moved, not the bodies. So in the movie, the house is built over basically dead bodies that were buried, that not like, you know what I mean, a cemetery. So they didn't know that there was like on a cemetery. This idea comes from a common urban legend, especially in fast-growing suburbs. So this is interesting. Suburban life fear. This was a thing in the 80s because suburban life was really popping up as a thing. I don't think people realize that this whole, like, have you ever heard the song Tiny Houses? It was actually the theme song to Weeds, the show Weeds. It's about like all these like suburban and the houses all looking the same because before that the houses did look different. If you look at 50s and 60s houses, they all had a different build, but these like track home things was starting to happen. And so suburban life fear, 1980 boom in cookie cutter neighborhoods. See, I didn't even really read this. I just know because, I'm that age. Anyway, hidden story. People feared what might lie underneath. Okay, so it's kind of funny that people are like, let's build these track homes and these suburban homes. Or like, but what's underneath? It's like, It's like, what were people why were people having such fear? I think it's because people had this idea of like, oh, we're going to like live in this really peaceful house. And maybe people were just like, I have a theory that if people start to get too comfortable, they have to add fear. Real life paranormal case that might have influenced it. The Herman case. It was 1958 in New York. Strange things happen in a family's house. Objects flying, loud noises. It got national attention. Police actually investigated it. The Poltergeist curse. After the movie came out, tragic deaths. There was a poltergeist curse. So if you're not familiar with the movie, if you're too young to have seen the movie, I've never watched the movie all the way through. And if I did, I don't remember, to be honest. But the little girl, they say there's a curse to after the movie was made to the cast and crew. But here's what they said has happened. The cast members fueled rumors. Heather O'Rourke played Carol Ann, and she died at 12 from medical issues. But I remember that she already had these medical issues before this even started. So it wasn't from the movie. Dominique Dunn played the older sister, was murdered. Fans believe the movie was cursed, adding to its spooky reputation. Okay. Themes. Spielberg and Hooper explored fear of losing control in your safe home. See what I mean? It was like the idea of this whole suburban life was being pushed so much at this time. So it was like, oh, what if it's not as safe as we think it is? Technology and media, TV as a portal. The perfect quote. See, I just said it. The perfect life of suburbia hiding something dark underneath. I believe I have a theory as a reader that has done so many readings and have dealt with the paranormal world and people who are curious. I also believe this is the same reason why so many women are into murder mysteries, or they're into like podcasts and things like this. And I think it's because when people feel really safe and things are really comfortable, it's almost like they look for the danger or excitement in life. I have a feeling that us as human beings, we're kind of, if you're not in a place of hunt and gathering or surviving, because if you notice, if people are trying to survive, they're not busy listening to, to crime podcasts. I'm just saying. I know I don't need to listen to crime podcasts because of the work I do. So I kind of feel like in that time, there was like this push of like perfect suburban life living, that type of thing, that it's almost like people were like, are we really safe? It's like drumming something up. Okay. So the perfect little life of suburbia hiding something dark underneath. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story. This is when we're going to get into the story. This is when I bring out my sound effects and all of that. So get ready. Let me take you back to February of 1958 to a quiet suburban neighborhood in Seaford, Long Island. It's the kind of place you expect peaceful evenings, dinner at 6, and not much else. See, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, people were like, okay, this is suburban life. This is it. We're making Jell-O, Jell-O molds where, having the kids play outside, they come in. I think the truth is, though, there was a lot going on in homes. I believe that was really where the dark stuff. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Dark things were coming from. But inside the Herman family's home at 1648 Redwood Path, something bizarre was unfolding. Something that would soon make national headlines. James and Lucille Herman lived there with their 2 children, 13-year-old Lucille Jr. and 12-year-old Jimmy. Everything was perfectly normal until it wasn't. It started small, strange noises, random popping sounds around the house. The family brushed it off as maybe pipes or the house settling. I always love that. The house just settling. How much does the damn house need to settle? I'm just saying. But then things took a turn. One afternoon, Lucille found household bottles, bleach, shampoo, even holy water. My question is, why did she have holy water in the house? But that's another question. Mysteriously opened and spilled across the different rooms. The caps were still upright, perfectly placed on the counters as if something had intentionally twisted them off. More days passed and it escalated, and a sugar bowl flew across the kitchen on its own. Let's see, that's a checkbox. Something paranormal going on. A globe spun and moved without anyone touching it. Encyclopedias flew off the shelf with such force. The bookcase itself toppled. Okay, so things are flying. Bottles of waters, of different liquids are coming off and spilling. Interesting. The bookcase itself toppled. Now remember that this was 1950s. There was no smart gadgets, no remote controls, and certainly no reason for these everyday objects to be moving on their own. Frightened, the Hermans did what most of us would do. They called the police. I mean, I guess you call the police over sugar. Okay, I could see that. It's the 50s. What else are you going to do? You can't Google. And you can't go to your encyclopedia because it's haunted. Okay. Frighten the Hermans do what they call the police. Detective Joseph Tossi. What Tossi was Tossi? It's him. He's tossing the sugar bowl. I broke it. I broke the case. It's Tossi, really? I could be saying it wrong. Tazi was assigned to the case, and he couldn't explain what was witnessing. Bottles still popped open while officers were in the room. So the bottles did pop open while they're in the room. The family wasn't even touching them. There was no wires, no signs of pranks, nothing. Eventually, the case caught the attention of scientists, and I always can't say this. Please bear with me, everyone. Parapsychologist. Parapsychologist was basically psychologists that study the paranormal. You think I would know it, how to say it. One theory came from a physicist at Brookhaven Labs. He wondered if underground water currents were creating magnetic disturbances in the house. That theory, though, didn't really hold up. No. What? I think there's magnetic water. There's water with magnets in it. Come on, man. I mean, I'm all for logic, but that's stretching it. That's stretching it. The most intriguing explanation came from Dr. J.B. Ryan of Duke University. Very nice university. A leading parapsychologist at the time, he believed this could be a textbook case of psychokinesis, so basically telekinesis. The idea that the mind, especially of adolescents going through stress or hormonal changes, could move physical objects. Okay, I know this is a thing where people are like, this is a thing, and this is why a lot of movies like Carrie and all these movies it's always like, oh, you're going through your teen years, and suddenly you have psychic telekinesis. I can tell you, as someone who's psychic and a medium, I had these my whole life since I was a little girl. It didn't start in teen years. It's a weird theory. It's so weird, but it's very prevalent if you look at these types of movies and stuff. Okay, so they're like, I know you're going through the change. Use your mind, Luke. Why are people so fascinated with teenagers change? Get out of there. No. Okay. And it wasn't uncommon for reported poltergeist activity to center around preteens like Jimmy. It's very strange. So what happened to the family? By March, just a little over a month later, the activity stopped. So it just happened for a month. No more flying sugar bowls. No more bottle explosive. And it just ended. Interesting. So it just ends. And suddenly as it began. But the story didn't disappear. The Herman case was featured in Time magazine, Life, and newspaper. By the way, for young people, Life magazine, that's an old magazine. Life magazine, and newspapers across the country. It became one of the most famous and most documented alleged poltergeist cases in the U.S. And decades later, it's believed that the Poltergeist, the 1982 horror classic, was partially inspired by the strange, unexplained events at the haunted Herman family. Whether it was a hoax, repressed energy from a preteen boy, what? It's like, Jimmy, we know you have all this testosterone going through you. Stop throwing the sugar bowl around. Stop throwing things. It's like, what? Okay, or something darker. No one has ever fully explained what was really happened in that house on Redwood Path. Can I just say that's a nice street name? Just saying. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay, so I wanted to do a follow-up. What happened after when this all died down? You want to hear the follow-up, and then I'll tell you what I feel is going on. Okay, so let's go back to Seaford, Long Island, where in 1958, the Herman family found themselves at the center of one of the strangest and most public poltergeist cases in American history. Bottles exploded, furniture moved, and everyday objects seemed to act on their own, all in front of police officers, priests, even researchers from Duke University. But what happened after the headline faded? Aha, that's what I want to know. James Herman, the father, never seemed quite settled by the explanations offered at the time. In a rare comment years later, he suggested something few had considered. Maybe it wasn't spirits at all. Interesting. Maybe, he said, it was something else manipulating the environment. He even wondered aloud if it could have been the result of military testing or some kind of electromagnetic interference. Electromagnetic interference. What could that be? Interesting. He compared it to how people once thought flight was impossible until it wasn't. Maybe, he thought, one day we'd understand this too. He's basically saying what I always say, right? It's just a science we don't understand yet. Don't I always say this? If you've been listening to me, if you have been listening at least to this podcast for a while, I always say what I do and how I see things, and the other realm is probably just a science we just don't understand yet. So it's kind of what he's saying. I find that interesting. His wife, Lucille, kept her focus on the tangible. She returned to work as a registered nurse and tried to bring stability back to their family. She rarely spoke to the press again, but behind the scenes, she reached out to other people who had similar experiences, quietly building a kind of network for those touched by the unexplained. We're just beginning to get back to a quiet, normal life, she once told a reporter. Their daughter, Lucille Jr., grew up. Whoa. Well, props to them for naming their daughter Lucille Jr. I don't know, Lucille. That's unusual. I was going to say it's a little narcissistic, but is it? I mean, men do it all the time. Interesting. Married and moved to upstate New York, she became Lucy Patricia. And interestingly, her son, Matt Patricia, went on to be an NFL head coach. But their son, Jimmy, the one many thought might have been the source of the, quote, psychic energy at the center of the disturbances, he changed his name to James and became president of an engineering firm in Massachusetts. His company specialized in high frequency microwave energy and electronic warfare systems for the U.S. military. Technology that decades ago would have sounded like science fiction. Now he was helping build it. So, you catch that? The son they thought, Jimmy, who was doing the telekinesis, grew up to work with energy for the military. And his father said, I don't know, maybe this is having to do with the military somehow. Note that. And that house in Seaford, it's still there. Quiet. No new reports, no flying bottles, no, just an ordinary home in suburban neighborhood. The Hermans moved out shortly after everything ended, and life, it seems, moved on. But here's the thing. For all the attempts to explain it, telekinesis, psychokinesis, stress, or hoaxes, I've always felt something else was going on. Something, this is me talking, not quite ghostly. Something not quite of this world. Think about it. The activity was centered on the kids, yes, but it wasn't random chaos. It felt targeted, and the fact that James Herman himself wondered if some external force was involved, that speaks volumes. And then Jimmy, who was supposedly channeling the psychic energy, ends up specializing in electromagnetic warfare? To me, that doesn't sound like your typical haunting. It feels more like they were being observed, tested, maybe even manipulated by something alien. Yes. That is more what I feel. It's a little more of this energy. See, this is why I feel like people need to know. We always go to the obvious, the fearful, the thing that kind of gets people riled up. Oh, it's a this, it's a spirit, it's a this. But there's things other than that could make things happen, and we're going to get into it. Not spiritual, not ghosts, but technology we didn't yet understand. Something probing the environment, infecting physical objects, and then vanishing as quickly as it appeared. So maybe the question isn't, was it a ghost? Maybe the question is, were they part of something bigger and not from here at all? Yes. Let's go over this. Things flying off the shelf does check a box for paranormal activity, but paranormal is under a very large umbrella, which includes alien and not of this world, non-human. And there was things flying off, and there were caps of bottles being spilt, almost like popping it off, like popping the cap off. And there was, they did say that they saw some shadow people, some other things I read. And they said they never said something like touch them or scratch them or anything. It was mostly about things being moved. And it was centered around the sun. Now, I find it very fascinating that this sun now, I don't feel that it's because the sun had telekinesis and now he's an engineer and all this. I feel this got him interested in studying it because he witnessed something. That's my read on it. My read as a medium and an intuitive and dealing with the paranormal world is this: when it comes to the Herman family that the movie Poltergeist is based off, is as following. I feel he did witness something. I feel what happens with teens, it's not that there's something they're going through, it's that teens are able to verbalize better when they witness things that are of another world. Whereas small children also see these things, but they cannot communicate it as well. So I believe that he saw these things, which led him to a fascination of how does these things work. Do I feel it was his own abilities that he was doing? No, but I do feel they were, and I'm going to look it up, but I have a feeling they were in a kind of a more rural area, and it led them to be prone to kind of alien type of activity. I feel the father knows this because he may have been connected to something like this. And I have done several readings. I have had this happen several times where people's families are connected to the military and they have weird things happening and they never put two and two together, the children. So I feel that they were having something around their house that was causing it, or visitation more from alien. It feels very much more alien to me. When I even read it before I tuned in, I don't know. It doesn't feel like what they want it to be. Here's why: because it's only things flying around. They did say that they saw some shadow people, but that was only one thing I found on that. They did say they heard footsteps, but again, that was only one thing. The consistent thing seems to be that the bottles, caps were popping off, and that things were flying off. And even the fact that the father says it makes me feel that he kind of knew, like he kind of knew something was going on. And the fact that the son started working for the military, and I don't know if I read this, but he also helped create microwaves, like the microwaves that we have. Come on. There's something connected. Alien stuff can happen in a way that can look very similar to spirit stuff. But it doesn't sound like they were having the famous, TV static. Whoa, sorry. TV static, they're here type of situation that was exaggerated in Poltergeist. It kind of feels like the bottle caps being on the counter and the water being spilt. That's not typical paranormal. That is more like something manipulating energy. So let's take a look at where this house is. So it's supposed to be the Herman house. Let's look, and I'm going to Google it instead of ask. But I'm pretty sure that it's in, it's supposed to be in the suburbs, right? But suburbs could be rural area. So the Herman house, the ghost of the Herman, it keeps saying the ghost. Was it in a rural area? Let's see. Let me ask chat. It's just quicker. I won't have chat read out loud to you like I did last time. But let me ask. The Herman house, was it in a rural area? I don't have to have it read out loud to you. It says it's in Seaford, Long Island. So Long Island I've been to is not a rural area. It's not a rural area. In fact, it was a typical post-war suburb. So it's a suburban area and a quiet middle class. But I still feel like, and it was by the water, so that's interesting. Was it by a military base, and did the father work for the military? Let's see if the father was in the military at all at any time. And Center of one of America's. Okay, so James Herman, the patriarch of the family, was not just any suburban father. He was a decorated combat Marine. Hello? Is this mic on? See? Now I got this information before I came on, but I wanted to go deeper into what I was feeling. So let's step back. I said, it's because when I clip this. So the Herman house that the Poltergeist movie is based off of, the father believed it had something more to do with something magnetic field, which to me would be connected to aliens. I feel he knew about these alien type things. Many people in that time did. Okay. and they weren't allowed to tell their families they did, and then things start to happen, which is why he might know maybe there was some testing around them. Okay, he was a decorated combat Marine who had served his country with distinction. After his military service, he transitioned to life working for Air France in Manhattan. So he still was like flying. Additionally, he served in the auxiliary police force of Seaford. His disciplined background and analytical mind made him a credible witness to the unexplained phenomenon. See? Noteworthy. Seaford location is noteworthy while it exudes suburban tranquility. It's situated within a region that during the Cold War was dotted with military installations. Notably, Mitchell Air Force Base, located Unadale, was operational until 1961 and played a significant role in Air Force. The base was approximately 10 miles from Seaford, making it nearby presence during the time of Herman's experiences. I'm telling you, I feel like this happens more than people know. So, this is the chat says, a theory beyond the paranormal. Given James Herman's military background and family's proximity to the significant military infrastructure, it is plausible to consider that the disturbances were not of supernatural origin. Instead, they may have been a result of experimental technologies, unintended side effects. Okay. So I'm going to ask chat this. Could it also have been to do with aliens? Which would be having to do with the military. And I'm not going to read all of it, everyone. I just wanted to get a backup of what I was saying. Absolutely. Oh, no, it doesn't say absolutely. So it says, no, it's trying to type me a story. It's just, yes, it says, the Herman house was less than 10 miles. Could the Herman haunting have been alien related? Was fully active at the time. During the 1950s, the base was involved with the Cold War. So it's not going to say yes or no. The son's career at the center of the phenomenon, Jimmy Herman went on to run a company developing microwave weapons and countermeasure systems. I'm telling you guys, I just feel like, so could it have been aliens? Yes. Not little green men flying through the attic, but some kind of non-human intelligence or tech causing physical disruptions. And considering the military's obsession with tracking, recovering UAPs, which we now know they've been doing since the 40s, it's completely logical to consider that the Herman house may have been accidentally affected by the alien technology, deliberately chosen as a test site, or even monitored by both alien presence and military surveillance. That's what I feel. And I'm telling you, I believe this happens a lot more than people understand. I believe there's a lot of people who are in the military that they tend to use their family as a way to kind of just test things. And I do believe a lot of the times people who are in the military know this is happening. They just can't tell their family. I may know this is happening. And that's why I feel like the father said, yeah, I don't think it's that. But here comes Hollywood coming knocking and saying, oh no, we want to turn this into a poltergeist. This is what I believe, everyone. I believe that it's easier to keep people afraid of what really lies on the other side, which I believe is actually science that we don't understand, that I do believe is more of a scientific thing, that it's just a science we don't understand, which is a future science. And I do believe it's better to just scare everyone and say, oh, it's the boogeyman, just stay away from over there. And so they love these type of stories that just kind of propaganda that. And I do believe it's the same thing when it comes to aliens and things like this that are energies that they know how to manipulate energies in another way. It's just easier to make everyone afraid. And so therefore, it's not the static of the TV However, interesting enough, right? The static of the TV is interesting. They used that because it almost was like close to the idea of something energy based, but not really. I think that they were utilizing something they thought would be the closest with creating a portal. And that is my take. And therefore, as a medium, I must say, this house is clean. This house, no, she doesn't say, she says, this house is clean. Now, as far as the curse, there's no curse. The little girl was already sick. It's known that she was already sick, and things happen. Now, a different movie that I probably will never cover because it's a movie I don't have good feelings about. That's the only horror movie I do not have good feelings about, which is The Exorcist. And here's why. I feel like they are definitely taunting with very powerful beings that you shouldn't taunt with in that movie. And I do believe that movie caused problems. And it's the only movie that gives me the willies, to be honest. All the other ones seem like hilarious and jokey to me. This one doesn't so much. I don't like things that mess with kids and all that. I don't know. There's something about that movie that speaks a little too close to home. But mostly, I feel like they're taunting. They're taunting. And it could also be that I was growing up a little religious kid when that movie came out. Okay. But let's get back to our alien friends. I feel that this is really interesting because I always feel like I have a different take. Don't you guys think like I have a different take on it? I feel like I always have a different take on the way most people see things. You know, people go to all these things and it's like maybe it's just this. Maybe we're just hanging out in a spaceship. Maybe they were just like picking this family to try things out. It's not poor Jimmy being all pent up from his puberty issues. It's, why are you blaming this on teenagers going through normal teenage life? It's like, it's them, it's the teenagers. No, it's the aliens. Poltergeists can happen, meaning things flying around the house. It's not always spirits, everyone. It's not always spirits. So there you go. What do you think about that? What do you think of that? Did you enjoy that episode? Did I win you over at all? What do you feel? Leave in the comments when I post these things and let me know. But I am here as a medium, as a professional medium, as the house medium, and an intuitive to blow the lid off of a lot of the BS that goes around in the paranormal world. Because don't we all really want to know? Don't we all just say, listen, yes, I know we've admitted that there's life on other planets. Yes, we've admitted that we've been visited. Yes, we've seen the government admit that aliens do exist. But don't we just want to get down to okay, who are they? Let's have a conversation with them. Let's connect. Don't we just want to get there already? I know I do. So I know I've had experiences, but I know we're ready for that. Can we just stop with all the reign of terror on anything we just don't understand? Can we just be open to a new world, a different science that we don't understand? Anyway, there you go. This house is clean. Oh, that's very fitting. I'm the house medium. Let me say this so that my AI, when I send it to the AI clip, catch this as a clip. Opius is the name of the program. AI Opius. I, Adele Levine, your house medium, says, this house is clean. And just step with me into space. Okay. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget, if you want to support what I do, to take a look at my Patreon. On my Patreon, I post energy climates daily. I do an energy climate for the month. I do speed readings, which I'm about to do this week and post. I post classes. I have all this extra content that is mostly to help you. It's not really about, entertainment as it is information that you can access at any time. You can join Sacred Scholar if you want access to my classes, and you could join just the regular Patreon if you want access to the everyday. I post stuff there all the time. And what I love, it's like a little community where all the other weirdos can talk to each other. All of us weirdos can hang out and talk about aliens and talk about spirits and talk about magic. You can practice with each other. It's a really lovely community, and it really supports the work I do. And don't forget, if you're interested in things I do have 2 books, Peering into the Narrow Room, but my latest book is pretty much all of the things I've experienced. It's a memoir, Seer, the origin story, and I really think you're going to enjoy. Thank you all so much for the support and the work that I do. And please let me know what other story. I have some others lined up. I think I'm having fun that I'm like, you know what? I think at first I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, because I was like, I want to do these stories, but I have to do it my way. Of course, I did it my way. Anyway, I didn't want to do it cheesy. I didn't want to do what everyone else is doing, because I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing. I have to do it the way I'm doing. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave a little different take on it, a more real take on it, a refreshing take on it than most people, because I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to cut through the bullshit, and I'm going to tell you it without fear, and maybe open your eyes, because so that I want you to step into the paranormal world with me. And that's why I've been doing mentorships, and I've been mentoring people and working with them, because I want people to not be afraid of what is out there. So with that said, follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your voice. This house is clean. I'll see you soon.